Cafe Anyway. Welcome to Cafe Anyway.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Somewhere in Podcastro Valley, the last place on earth. Thank you for joining us today. Last show was called Suggestions. Mike's Daily Podcast. And it involved a story about a woman who's over 100. She says she got to 102 because here's something she didn't do. She never got married and she stayed single her whole life. I just summed up the whole last podcast for you. Isn't that nice? You're welcome. And this podcast is going to get into some interesting stuff, I'll tell you. Mike's Daily Podcast. That's why it's called Mike's Daily Podcast. And I've been doing it now for many years. Not always Mike's Daily. Shh, don't tell everyone. Podcast. Keep it between us. Yeah. I try. I get interrupted. But yeah, sometimes I get on a roll. And I did 5 days in a row. Did I take the weekend off? No. So yeah, it really is daily. Some people say they're daily and they're not. Well, I have an interesting story about Gen Zers, Genzilla, and Millennials. Is it Gen XLs? No. Gen Zers. Did I get a polio vaccine? Fortune magazine says that some Gen Z and millennials are asking their parents for answers after a resident just outside of New York City was confirmed to have the virus in July. Polio was found in the city's wastewater, and it could be just the very tip of the iceberg, a senior official with the CDC said recently. So yes, how does polio virus spread? According to Fortune magazine, it involves touching stuff that's not very... Don't touch poo, basically, or contaminated objects, and then touching your mouth.
And here's today's podcast picture.
If there's one thing we've learned since COVID, don't ever touch your eyes or mouth ever again. Like that's going to happen. But yes, that's a good idea. Also, how does polio virus spread? Oh, the podcast picture. It doesn't spread through the podcast picture. But how about another picture from the lovely town of Niles? I visited it yesterday. And here's another picture. See it at mikesdailypodcast.com. I went to Niles with the late, great Basil the Boxer a couple of times. We met a lot of people that thought he was awesome because he was awesome. And we walked all around. Down there, there's that Quarry Lakes near there and the cool river that comes through. It's at the Alameda Creek. And, fun times with the late, great Basil the Boxer. Also, polio virus can spread from droplets from a sneeze or a cough and via food or water. The symptoms are mild flu-like symptoms like fever, muscle or body aches, nausea, and diarrhea. And very rare, there is sometimes paralysis. But most who contract the virus experience no symptoms. There are 2 types of polio vaccines. There's the inactivated poliovirus vaccine, or IPV, and it's administered as a shot and has various non-living parts of the virus in it. I know. It's a world of anti-vaxxers these days. So maybe saying this is just like spitting in the wind, which if you are spitting in the wind, make sure I'm not downwind from you. I don't want to get the polio virus or COVID or anything else, or monkey virus. Monkey virus, from what I've heard, is more of a physical contact thing, actually skin on skin. Oral polio virus vaccine, or OPV, is taken by mouth and contains live polio virus. Is the polio vaccine required for school? Yes. All U.S. states, that's all of them, require it to enter it will require you to have the polio vaccine in order to enter childcare or elementary school if you're a little one. How did that happen? How did that get pushed on every state? How did every state stand for that? at one point we weren't so hysterical, I guess. The CDC recommends to get the polio vaccine. The first dose at 2 months, the second at 4 months, and the third between 6 and 18 months. The vaccine lasts, 3 doses of IVP is 99% effective, but children get a booster shot when they are 4 to 6 years old, and it shouldn't last throughout. Oh, it should last throughout adulthood once you get that booster shot at 4 or 6 years old. You should get a booster if you had a bone marrow transplant or if you're traveling to an area where polio is more common. Fascinating. And if you're in Canada, the food price inflation prices, now I don't know if this is true in America, but food price inflation has likely hit its peak, according to the Globe and Mail. And according to experts, despite sustained record highs, which they predict will ease in the coming months. The statistics yesterday, Statistics Canada reported another record high for food inflation prices, up 9.2% in July compared with last year. But experts say the worst is likely behind us. Many of the factors responsible for driving up food prices have begun to ease. Fuel prices are falling. You can actually get gas as cheap as $4.86 in the Bay Area. You got to look, though. You got to be savvy. There's a place that I go to all the time that will not go much lower than $5. They're stuck at like $4.99. But yet there's another place in Podcastro Valley, that's all I'll say, that's at $4.87. But in other parts of the country, it's like $3. So many of the factors responsible for driving up food prices have begun to ease, like fuel prices, and shipments of Ukrainian grains have begun flowing out of the region. And that, believe it or not, is helping despite prices softening at grocery stores. Some products like dairy and baked goods could maintain high prices for the time being as we go outside a cafe anyway, where we bring you Mike's Daily Podcast, somewhere in Podcastro Valley, the last place on earth. Fascinating. I try to bring you fascinating stuff. You know, Spock used to say that. That's why I say I watched Star Trek. When I was a kid, it was on in syndication in reruns. And my mom's second husband, he was always around watching TV, and so I'd have to watch what he was watching. And I started watching Star Trek, and of course I was all into Star Wars because I was a kid in the 70s. And I started watching the Star Trek thing, and I thought Spock was cool, and he would say fascinating, or so would Dr. Bones. Jim. And then Spock, Leonard Nimoy, would later host In Search Of, which I found fascinating. So that is the latest. I am going to, right now, outside a cafe anyway, say hi to some people. Hello, Michael Masters, Madame Rootabega, and Leonard Nimoy was wonderful. Oh, yes, Leonard Nimoy was wonderful. Did you meet him? Yes. Did you act with him? Yes. Were you married? No. Oh, okay. Just checking. Look who else is here.
Hello there, Mike. This is Valentino, the parking attendant.
And this is Bison Bentley. Do you know that?
Hey, Mike, this is fascinating what you're talking about there with polio. There.
Yeah, polio. Do you know that? I believe that, was it polio that my mom had? No, that was FDR, wasn't it? If my remembering of history is correct. You know what time it is? So I don't know if I said this clearly last time. I mentioned this to my lovely lady friend, and she said, what? So I may have zipped through the name of what the following segment is. But lately I've been doing this thing where, because I get so many people sending me music. And I love it. I love it. If I wasn't this chatterbox, I'd be a songwriter. I would venture into the world of songwriting. I have written some songs. I do a little song at the beginning of every show. But I love songwriters. I used to interview them. There are several interviews at the website, mikesdailypodcast.com. Just go there at the top of the page where it says home, and you can see there's a fair warning, interviews S through Z has not been organized yet, and some of it may be missing. But I do get a lot of people sending me music. And here is a band. We're going to do it's called the Mike Matthews New Tunes Feud. So it's a feud, everybody. Look out! And this is Jake Chisholm. So we're going to put Jake Chisholm up against a challenger. And this is a song that is called Keep Me Warm. Let's listen to we can only listen to a little snippet of it. Okay, I have to stop there so I don't get dinged. Nice guitar. I kind of like that guitar lick at the beginning. Very cool. Or do you like Jake Chisholm, or do you like New? And that's spelled N-U-E. New. And here's a little bit. There you go. That's a song called Wallflower. So New or Jake Chisholm with Keep Me Warm. What one do you like better? 656 KHAY. I am so... Man, that is lodged deep in my memory, and I cannot get that back out. I wonder if that radio station still even uses that phone number. No, in fact, the phone number is this.
Call now. 336-MM Daily.
Wow, I never realized how similar. So I used to work at a radio station called KHAY for 11 years, and I did a thing called the New Country Preview. And we would do a thing where we would play the songs that did the best. We'd have a showdown between the two of them. We would do the Wednesday night, what did we call Wednesday? The midweek matchup. And then Friday, we did the Friday night fights. And whoever won the Friday night fights would go on to the next week and fight the midweek matchup, etc. So that's how it went. And usually in country music, anything that was George Strait, Shania Twain, although Shania Twain, as she got more pop, more pop, the fans started leaving her, as I noticed. But anything Tim McGraw, anything at the time, anything Dixie Chicks would get a lot of votes. But that was pre-Iraq War and all that stuff that happened. So Liz Cheney lost, but she's going to run for president. Wow. Wonder what the Dixie Chicks think of that. So, or just the Chicks now. But the point is, and there is an interview with the Dixie Chicks or the Chicks at mikesdailypodcast.com in that interviews section if you want to check it out. Also in the cassette cubbyhole, because I saved that interview on cassette. So there's a section on my website called the cassette cubbyhole, which features some interviews like Keith Urban and other country stars when I was on. And I would tell people to call in, tell me what they think, and I would say 656 KHAY was the request line and the call-in number to vote. But that number, I don't know if KHAY still used that. It would be interesting if they still did. But my number is similar. We got the thing going on with number 6, but in this case, it's 336 MM Daily. That's 3 plus 3 equals 6. MM as in Mike Matthews, Daily as in what this podcast has for a bunch of days now, a whole bunch of days. Or you can email me, and with more on how to email me, mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com. It's A-Frame.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at mikesdailypodcast.com. Email Mike now at mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!